going to be talking about Sage 100 payment and shipment processing. I'm so pleased to be joined by Patty Benitez with Fortis and Matt St. John over at Starship. We're going to be talking about integrated payments inside Sage 100 and integrated shipment. So happy, Patty, that you're back with us. You are now the Director of Training and Experience over at Fortis, and Patty's going to train us about how to get the best payment rate, credit card processing rate within Sage 100 using all the data in the Sage 100 customer database and passing that over to all the payment processors. And there's a lot that goes along with that. So she's definitely an expert trainer when it comes to payments. And Matt St. John has been doing integrated shipping with Sage 100 for years. So he knows a lot about Starship and how to get the best carrier to fulfill the customer orders within Sage 100, along with the best shipping rates and all those rules that go along with shipments. So thank you two, for joining us today. A little bit about the history of Fortis. Recently, Fortis acquired VIP Integrated Payments, and Fortis is a leading provider of integrated payment technology solutions for North American merchants. And their real strong suit is the strategic partnerships that they've built over a long period of time, over 25 years. They offer multiple platforms, so that's kind of a differentiator for a payment provider, because they'll take a look at the customer and recommend the best solution based on all the unique requirements of the customer. So there's a lot of savings that can be had with payments, and you definitely want to lock in with the right provider to get that payment, drive those costs of payments down for credit card processing. And Starship was founded in 1987, and they provide a multi-carrier shipping software. So they'll find the right carrier, whether it's FedEx, USPS, UPS On Track, or LTL, DHL, Holland, T-Force Freight, YRC, Old Dominion, Pitt, Ohio, carriers like those that are well known, but also custom carriers, to make sure that shipment is handled in the most efficient way possible using all the data in Sage 100. And so along with the integration with Sage 100, they also have an integration with Dynamics GP, Dynamics 365 Business Central, all the Sage products, Acumatica, QuickBooks, SAP Business One, Epicor, and Syspro. They also have integrations with Amazon, eBay, Magento, Shopify, and WooCommerce for e-commerce. And a little bit about the workflow today. We're going to be talking about payments first. So Patty's going to kick it off with Fortis, and then that'll be followed by Matt St. John over at Starship talking about how to get the best rate in shipment. So we'll go ahead and kick it off with Patty. Thank you so much. Patty, could you tell us a little bit about automating payment processing with Fortis and Sage 100?
My pleasure, Adrienne, and thank you so much for such a great introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today and giving us the opportunity to provide you with a little bit of information regarding what exactly Fortis has to offer, and provide you with information with regards to the best way that you can benefit from any payment provider out in the industry. The first thing you'd like to look for, which is really the most important, because it will not only save you time, but of course, it will save you money. The automation. You want to make sure that any provider that you work with can offer you what you see on the screen, the daily automatic batch reporting. Tokenization is absolutely a must. Why? Because the security and the risk that you run by accepting credit cards is tremendously high and can actually bring a business under if you do not have the right type of compliance. At Fortis, we are dedicated to making sure all of our merchants become and remain PCI compliant. You want to make sure that you have the interchange optimization that will allow you to obtain lower rates. Now, how does that happen? Many of you have heard of level 3 processing. And for those of you that haven't, in a nutshell, level 3 processing can cut the rate that you're receiving almost in half, sometimes even more. We've actually seen merchants save over $100,000 a year by simply processing transaction using level 3. Now, level 3 is a program that Visa and MasterCard put in place in order to lower transaction rates and fees anytime you use Visa and MasterCard, anytime that you process a corporate or a government card. They require 13 to 16 data fields in order to verify a transaction qualifies for level 3. If it does, you are guaranteed the lower rates. Needless to say, when you process a transaction, you're expecting funding to happen as quickly as possible. Know that many processors will promise next day funding, but what they really mean is 24 business hours or 48 hours. In many cases, you can actually verify and confirm with the processor 12 to 11-hour funding, and that's definitely a recommendation. That includes American Express. Nowadays, many processors also offer the flexibility of making payments online. Thank you, millennials, and thank you to COVID, I have to say. As you probably all know, during COVID, while we were all in lockdown or afraid to go out and shop, we had no choice but to shop online. What better benefit than to be able to pay online as well and pay whenever you're ready to make that payment? Well, you definitely want to get that type of flexibility from your payment provider, not only to be able to process credit card transactions, but also, if you feel like it, make a payment via ACH. And this has to apply not only in the US, but also in other countries, right? In Fortis' specific case, we have the option for you to process ACH in the US, EFT processing in Canada. Listen to this term, because this is a term that we introduced and is very important, and you should require with any payment processor. Cloud EMV. And let me explain what Cloud EMV has to do with your specific process in general. Next slide, please. Here are some of the benefits of Cloud EMV. So the EMV transaction is actually hosted in a cloud-based server. The biggest advantage of accessing the terminal via web service in this way is that it allows for instant software updates with less software and no transaction data within the actual terminal. This technique also simplifies the data management process. Now think about it, just like we all worked, especially in the Sage channel, with going from on-premise to the cloud, this is exactly what's happening with payments nowadays. And again, I personally thank the millennials and thank COVID, because it really pushed the industry to higher the standards for all of the users, not only on a personal level, but business to business transactions. Imagine now, if I, as a consumer, like to make my payments online using the cloud, what would make me go to a processor that has limits against or towards this type of technology? Next slide, please. And we're happy to take questions along the way as well. So in payments, as I was saying, first you want to make sure that you have the automation that you require or that your customers require. And let me just specify the reasons why. Again, automation is something that your customers, as personal consumers, are accustomed to. You have to be able to deliver this in business, because if you're not, your competitors, trust me, are. Another thing that we have to always worry about and focus on is security. I should not say worry about, because depending on the provider that you choose, you should be able to obtain the assistance in order to receive the security that you're entitled to. I'm specifically talking about PCI compliance in the payments world. Payment brands may, at their discretion, now think about this, fine an acquiring bank anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000 per month for PCI compliance violations. And among other things, banks will also be able to either terminate your relationship or increase transaction fees if your organization is not PCI compliant. The potential for lost revenues, customer loss, and overall negative impact causing future earning losses. Now, I promise you, we have seen multiple companies go under because of a PCI compliance risk. You're liable for lawsuits, insurance claims, on and on and on. This is never ending. Next slide, please. Nobody really wants to go through that. Make sure that the payment provider you choose is able to help you and willing to help you with the PCI compliance. Many of you have probably gone through the self-assessment questionnaire. That questionnaire can turn from 10 questions to over 100 questions simply by you answering the wrong type of answer on a question that could have been an easy answer. We can give you examples of that if you're interested. Our team is happy to provide you with assistance at no charge going through the self-assessment questionnaire. If you're not in compliance with PCI DSS, I'm going to underline the fact that you are putting your entire business at risk. Next slide, please. So we've talked about automation, compliance. What's one of the most important factors when you're processing any type of payment transaction? As a consumer, if I run into an issue, I'm expecting to make a call because I'm making a payment and talk to a human being that can help me to finalize my payment or assist with any issue that I'm running into. This is something that you always have to make sure is available with your credit card processing provider. The personal attention and the 24/7 live support. If I haven't emphasized anything enough, I want you to please focus on this message. Any processor that you work with, you want to make sure that there is a live human being dedicated to your account and available to you anytime you run into any type of support issue. Next slide, please. I wanted to share some contact information with you, but I also wanted to take a moment and introduce Miah Green, who is our Vice President of ERP at Fortis. Now, the reason I'm bringing Miah to the table today specifically is because there's one more thing I wanted to mention that was not on the slides. Many processors will claim that they own their own gateway. And that's okay. If they don't own it, they use a white label, they white label a different gateway. But the benefits behind owning your own gateway are immeasurable because of the flexibility it offers the merchant with regards to the level of features and integration the merchant requires. Now, I spoke about automation, compliance, security. I'd like to talk about the gateway, but I want to make sure for those of you that are multitasking, make sure you focus on the level of savings, the compliance, and if you're interested in learning or you're curious about finding out how much you could potentially save, make sure you contact Miah and let him know that you are interested in a free analysis of your current merchant statements. No strings attached. Miah will let you know exactly how much we could save you. Miah, would you mind talking a little bit more about the benefits of owning your own gateway?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming today. The gateway and the importance of the gateway, again, pretty immeasurable. When it comes right down to it, the providers that own their own gateway, one, have the ability to develop solutions in their gateway much quicker than they could if they had to rely on developers to work on their white labeled solutions, right? So you have in-house developers that cover your gateway from a technical standpoint, from a development standpoint. If you own it, that happens much quicker. The gateway features that are there are very important as well. As Patty mentioned earlier, having a gateway that does interchange optimization or level 2 and level 3 payments is one of the biggest benefits for B2B clients. We all work with them or are a B2B merchant ourselves. So when it comes right down to it, having a merchant service provider that owns their gateway, that optimizes interchange, passes those data points through the authorization process to get those lower rates, that's by far where the client will save the most money. The other gateways, when it comes down to it, the other gateways that you have to work with are numerous, right? So you do have the ability to work with multiple vendors, you have the ability to stack, you have the ability to partition different vendors for certain functionality. What I always warn clients with on that is that when you have multiple vendors, you have multiple clients calling, and generally there's blame passing that happens. So what you want is a point of contact that is able to answer the phone, willing to answer the phone, and having the least amount of vendors in the mix as possible is going to be the best case scenario. So less vendors, own your own gateway, make sure that you are working with a client or a merchant service provider that offers the clients optimized interchange or level 2 and level 3 payments, and basically somebody that will be willing to answer the questions that you have, somebody that has the heart of a teacher.
And can you guys tell us a little bit about Meeting of the Minds? I see you have it on there, and I think that would make specific interest for this audience specifically. So, Patty, could you tell us a little bit about your experience at Meeting of the Minds and Miah?
Absolutely, and thank you, Adrian. It was a great segue, by the way, Miah, with the educational scenario on my end. For those partners that are on the call today, we just wanted you to know that we plan to attend Meeting of the Minds. We will be providing an educational session regarding how to differentiate between one processor and another, and also learn how to look out for any liquidation cost on the contracts, etc. We want everyone to know that there are options out there available for you with regards to processors. It's not a one size fits all. So we want to make sure that you are able to pick and choose with the different providers and not be married into just one provider. So Meeting of the Minds is happening May 12th through the 14th, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone there.
And can you tell us a little bit about the audience at Meeting of the Minds, Patty? Is it mostly Sage 100 experts, resellers, things of that nature? And is anything recorded, any material that people can pick up if they're not able to attend that?
Sure. So the majority of the attendance at Meeting of the Minds would be your Sage reseller, specifically their consulting staff. These are the true Sage experts in the industry that are really there to get to know the different options as far as third-party products and learn as much as they can about any new features, specifically with Sage. I've also noticed that they've seen other ERPs there, but they focus mainly with Sage. If you're not able to attend for any reason, we will have the PowerPoint available and happy to provide one-on-one presentations.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Patty and Miah. Great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Matt over at Starship so he can educate us on how to make the best use of Sage 100 combined with Shipment.
Appreciate everyone taking time for the call. Again, my name is Matt St. John, and just going to quickly do a brief overview of Starship, the integration with Sage 100, and of course, put up my contact information. So if anyone after wants to do a more in-depth one-on-one call or even schedule a live demo, please feel free to reach out to me and most certainly schedule that. So real quick, I know Adrian talked a little bit about V Technologies, but as you can see here, we've been integrating or developing integrated shipping solutions, which at VTech is all we do since 1987, so 35 years now. We are a certified solution for UPS and FedEx. So basically what that means, things like our shipping labels are delivered already certified. So as a customer, you don't have to go through those pains to get them certified. Also, UPS and FedEx have subsidy programs, and through those programs, you can actually qualify for free funding. And of course, because we're a certified vendor for both the carriers, you could use that money to purchase Starship. Now, we do integrate with a dozen other ERP systems, but I've been working with Sage and Sage 100 for 22 years now, and we are a Sage Gold Development Partner. And of course, over the 35 years that we have been in business, we've actually had over 10,000 companies that have used Starship to help streamline their day-to-day shipping activities. So with Starship, that's really the name of the game. We want to streamline your daily shipping. So basically, we want to set up the system so as a shipper, the less things I have to click, type, touch, of course, the better. Really, the way we communicate with Sage is we simply data map. So we can take all the Starship fields and we can point to Sage 100 fields. And those could be standard Sage 100 fields. If you need, hey, maybe we want to use a user-defined field to maybe automatically select a shipping option or change the sender information if anyone's doing things like blind drop shipments. So we don't have to get in there and reprogram everything. When it gets configured, it is simple data mapping of pointing Starship to Sage fields, and even vice versa. We do have a built-in custom write-back tool where we can even take additional shipping information and send it back into, say, a user-defined field. So, for example, I have a lot of clients that they, on the SO invoice, they actually have Starship, of course, pass back what we want to charge the customer, but they also add a user-defined field that's their contract rate or what the carrier is going to charge them. So before someone updates the invoice, they can actually compare those fields and make sure they're not shorting themselves on the shipment. As you can see on this slide, of course, automating small package palletized. So Starship is multi-carrier, multi-mode. So as a shipper, I'm going to be able to, one, all I have to do is work inside of Starship. I do not need Sage installed on my shipping workstations. I don't need to even be inside of Sage. So I can just live and breathe inside of Sage 100. With that being said, it's still a live connection. So we can pull by sales order numbers, invoice numbers, or by a customer number. Most clients, it is by the sales order number. And what Starship's going to do is automatically read all the sales order information. So the header information, of course, sender, ship to. We look at your ship via codes and translate those into the carrier service. If you're doing third-party collect type shipments, we can even automate those where the billing type is changed to third party, and Starship automatically populates the customer's account number. Okay, so again, really key thing is here, we want to set it up so a shipper doesn't have to touch anything, make it a seamless process. So with Starship, we do have a database where you could set up packaging. As a shipper, I can put items in boxes if I want to, or if I'm doing an LTL type shipment, I can do item box pallet detail. So very simple drag and drop. And then with Starship, we'll also calculate dimensional weight. So if I'm doing, say, a shipment for UPS and it's small parcel, Starship will actually show me, here's either the scale weight, or we can pull weights from inside of Sage, so we don't even have to calculate the weights. But it would show me, hey, this package you're sending out, the scale might say it weighs 9 pounds, but dimensionally it's 19. That way, as a shipper, I can see, you know what, maybe I can get this into a smaller box because we're going to be charged 19 pounds. And also with that, just know Starship, if we process that at the 19 pounds dimensionally, that's what it's going to go to the carrier at. So there's no more getting that bill from the carrier that says, hey, you sent this box out at 6 pounds, dimensionally it was 19. All right, so really can get into that. And like I said, more than happy to show someone how that all works. We also do things like address validation. So we validate ZIP +4. We also validate that residential commercial flag. So it's going to help save on those address correction fees and those residential commercial flags. And then with Starship, we also include our dashboard program, which is a reporting tool. Anyone can use it. It does not require any additional user licenses. With Starship now, we have our cloud offering, which most clients are using, because the nice thing with the cloud, hey, now no one has to take care of the Starship. We don't have to have a server. Again, Starship does an update. We handle all that. Your IT guy doesn't have to be bogged down with that. Right. And then with the dashboard, we can even get into setting up custom emails, where if you want to create your own custom email template to show the customer, here's my company info instead of the carrier's info. Here's your items. Here's package 1. These are the items in that box, and the hyperlink tracking number. So the customer can click on the tracking number and be directed directly to the carrier's website. Right. We also, any EDI solution, inventory management, WMS systems, we plug and play with. So we get along with those solutions out there. And then if anyone is doing things like hazmat, with EDI, we can generate 120A labels or UCC labels. As you see, any international documents, bill of lading forms, packing lists. So really again, a system that is going to allow my shipper few clicks as possible, process my shipments, have Starship generate all the correct shipping documents, and then what it's going to do behind the scenes is send back all the shipping information directly into the correct Sage tables. So if we're pulling by by a sales order, Starship automatically creates the invoice and SO invoice data entry, and on that invoice is going to be updated with the tracking information, freight amount, so on and so forth. Okay. And then real quick, just some of the carriers that Starship integrates with. We do integrate with over 24 small parcel and LTL type carriers, 3PLs as well. So with Starship, again, when we rate shop, it's a live call. We're going to ping the carrier, return things like your live contract rates. We can return published list rates if you need. Starship can even do plus or minus any freight rules if you want to, maybe, hey, free shipping over X amount of dollars, or this certain customer receives a discount. So a lot of functionality inside Starship. But with those carrier integrations, you know, we're going to fully support things like any of the contract options that you might have, like UPS ground freight pricing or FedEx One Rate. So we out of the box support things, all those service options. Okay. And last but not least is our e-commerce integrations. So Starship does integrate with a bunch of e-commerce sites. And with these integrations, most Sage 100 customers use them kind of on the back end where, hey, Starship's going to push the shipping information back into Sage as normal, but we could also update the order, say, for example, on Shopify, mark it complete, and add notes like, here's your tracking number, you know, and really any kind of notes you'd like where maybe, hey, it's shipped on here, here's your ETA, so on and so forth. But again, with Starship, live connection to Sage as well as all the carriers. So with that, let me just quickly put up my contact information. And as I mentioned, if anyone would like to schedule a discovery call or jump into a live one-on-one demo so I can actually show you the integration, please feel free to reach out to me. But really appreciate everyone joining our call.
And the great thing about all three of these folks is that they're extremely responsive. They're available. They'll get back to you within 24 hours, if not less, if not the same day. And the companies that they represent are, you know, mature companies with a lot of resources to help. So please reach out to them with any questions about shipping or payment processing. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to give it back to you. Thank you, Patty, Miah, and Matt. And please stay tuned for future webinars. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.